What's happening, YouTube? Today I'm bringing you a pretty exciting tutorial on how to create some really trippy visuals with Blender, and it's pretty easy. So if you've never used Blender before, you'll be able to follow along. I'll lay out all the steps and we'll create something awesome. So just to give you an idea of what we're creating today, if you look at my background on my computer, of course, there's snow falling. That's something separate. But the visual will look very similar to the background on my computer. So it's going to be super trippy, psychedelic, and awesome. And it's really simple. So let's jump into Blender and show you how it is created. First things first, you're just going to pop open Blender. So we'll open up Blender. We are using Blender 4.4.3. So you can get that on the Blender website. I'll drop a link down below and you can download that. So first thing you want to do when you hop into the project is you're just going to want to select everything and click delete. So click A and then click X and delete everything. So once you have basically an empty project, you're just going to want to add in a mesh plane. And we can size that up by just clicking on it and clicking S and then making it a little bit bigger. So once we have the plane, we're going to want to change our viewpoint to just over top. Any point over top is perfect, and we're going to actually get our camera set up real early on, real simple. So you're just going to select the camera from the menu. That's Shift A to open this menu, and then of course open up the camera. And once you have the camera selected here, you're just going to want to click Control Option 0, and that will put the camera directly over your plane. Now we can adjust this later, but we just want to get it set up now. As you can see, there's not much to look at really, because we haven't done any of the shading, but we will get to that. So one more thing we're going to want to adjust before we get started. I'm going to leave this on Eevee today just so I can render real quick, but you can honestly get some pretty good results from Cycles as well. And this will be kind of a test. Cycles is interesting because, you know, it just depends on what you're rendering, but I think for this particular project, we can stick to Eevee and it keeps the rendering process really quick. You don't really need to adjust anything else here for the moment being, but what I do like to do for all of my renders is I love to produce 8K. So the dimensions for 8K are 7680 by 4320. So this is a really giant image. This is 2 times the size of 4K. And what that allows us to do is create a graphic that's just overwhelmingly large, but it gives us a lot of flexibility in the post-processing and then also for the application. So whether you're putting it on a TV or on a computer background or even a phone background, the more pixels that the device has to work with, the better clarity you're going to get in the result. So I love doing really big renders, and if your computer can handle it, awesome. If not, maybe stick to 4K dimensions or even stick to 4K at the very least, please. Anything below 4K just doesn't look great. I'll put the dimensions for 4K and 8K in the description so you can play around with what works best for your machine. Now that we have that set up, we're going to want to get our environment set up pretty early on too. So the environment is set up with this little world icon, and basically all we have to do is click on this yellow dot here and go to environment texture, and you're going to need an HDRI. So I've put a link down below to a great website that you can find some free HDRIs on. And basically what this is doing is it's creating the entire lighting scene for your environment, and it's super important, but you can really play around. As you can see, I have a number of environments that I play with here. Really whatever works best for what you're creating, whatever whatever you see on that website that takes your interest, click on it and try it out. You might have to try a couple different ones, and we might even oh, that was loud. We might even switch up what we use. I'm gonna try this one to start, but we'll start here. So basically, once you have that all set up, you're ready to get into shading. And this is where we really have some fun. So we'll go into the shading tab, and we can get a little bit better view of what we're working with here. If we click on our plane and we click new, what we'll be greeted with is a principled BSDF and a material output. So what I like to do is I like to go to the viewport shading, which is how it will look in the studio. As you can see now, it has our HDRI loaded behind it, and all of this light within this image is being projected onto our plane. So it's very nice. Basically, what we're going to want to do from here is we can play around with some of the different values within our BSDF, and then we're going to add on some things that give us the really trippy effects. So something I usually do is I turn up the metallic all the way, and then I turn down the roughness. So this will give us a really shiny view. Almost like a mirror, right? So what we have going on here is looking pretty good so far, but what we're going to want to add is a magic texture. So we're going to go into here, click Shift A, and type in magic. Now, once you have the magic texture, just plug that into your base color, and as you can see, we're already getting some sort of trippy designs, but we're going to keep this pattern going here, and we're going to add a math. Okay, and what this is going to do is we have full control over what type of math is being applied. So we're going to actually add in a divide, and we're going to plug that into the vector. So as you can see, we're already getting some interesting things going on here. And then we're going to get another math node, and we're going to plug that into the value, and we're going to do a multiply. Okay, and then once we have that, we can add in a noise texture, and we can plug the color into the value. And as you can see, we already have a really trippy pattern. Where it gets fun here is you basically can play with the values as much as you want to create even more trippy images. So if we click the camera view, here's what we got going on. We'll go back into the camera and get things a little bit better organized here. If we go into the camera settings down here and we go to orthographic, sorry guys, if we go to orthographic, we get a little bit more zoomed in view, and as you can see, things are better in perspective. Now, the camera view, actually all of this is your entire render. So this is the entire 8K render, anything within that box. Let's go back to our plane. So we'll keep things like that. And if we go to the noise texture, we basically can go to 4D. And from here, we can actually change it to a different type of multifractal, or ridge multifractal, or hybrid multifractal. Basically, these options are giving us more variation in our design. And from here, really guys, it's just plug and play. Like you can change this however you like to create the results you want. So as you can see, if you want something super like out there, you can just play around with the multiply and then maybe even the divide, and you can create some really fantastic results. Now, the depth on the magic texture really allows you to have some flexibility on the color scheme. So if we play with that a little bit, we can see it's creating some different color schemes, and we can play around with the scale and the distortion on that. to create something cool too. Now this is looking a little bit too crazy for me. I like to have a little bit more, I do like super trippy, but I do like to have a little bit more structure in the in the result itself. So as you can see right now, I'm moving the camera around, or actually I'm moving the plane, and to do that you just press G while you have your object selected. If I had the camera selected, I'd be moving that, but G kind of allows you to move around and reposition things just the way you want them. So I'm looking pretty good with what we have right here. But if you'd like to kind of change up where different things are, you're going to come over to the noise texture and you can play with the W value, and that'll kind of shift things around a little bit, and maybe you can find a little bit better pattern to work with. That's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that's turning out there. If we go into the world, back into our environment texture, and sorry guys, street sweeper. Super noisy. I live on a very busy street, so I apologize for the extra noise today. But if we go back into the environment texture, we can actually play around with the strength of the environment. As you can see, if we go super up on the strength, it gets a little bit too overexposed. But if we go down a little bit more, we get some really cool hues. And like I said, we can play around with the environment texture. The environment texture has a huge effect on how the result looks. So basically, if you aren't getting the result that you're wanting, play around with the environment texture a little bit and see if you can choose one that works a little bit better to suit your needs. So this one's looking pretty cool. Yeah. Play around with this as much as you want. Feel free to adjust the values. That's why I'm not really saying, oh, you have to have this number set to this, you have to this to it. Really, I mean, it's up to you. You can play around with these values to a point where you can create some things that are just insane. And a lot of the fun in this process comes from being able to create multiple different renders and then create collections within those. So don't get so settled on a specific result. Just come in here, set up this node tree, and play around with it until you have something really pretty, and then just run with it. One thing that I will say is if we zoom in here, you can kind of see this one's actually looking pretty good as far as smoothness goes. So I mean this is looking pretty good, and that's another thing, guys. So like, perspective is everything within the shot. So this is a kind of an overview perspective, but if we go into the camera, we can actually zoom this in and create something totally different, right? So like, even that's super cool, because, you know, I'll show you how we can make multiple results within the same photo too. It's super sick. But basically, we'll start with this just as an example. I like how that's looking. I kind of want to make sure that everything's in view here, and then we can adjust the camera just a little bit to make sure we got some good clarity there. But yeah, just play around with the positioning of the camera and the plane itself, and definitely just mess around with these values to create something beautiful. And when you're ready to go, just click render image. And then what that will do is it will create your image. And as you can see, this looks really good. It was really quick render. That's an 8K render right there. It's beautiful. And what we'll do is we'll just save it to our desktop. Just save it as trippy. I always like to turn the color depth up and then the compression down. and we'll save it to our desktop. And then if we go and we take a look at the image, so this is the result that we just created. It's not as vibrant as we really want it to be, and this is where you can have some really cool results come out. If you just drag it into Photoshop or any other photo editor, there's a ton of free photo editors online that allow you to do these features for free if you don't have Photoshop. Basically, we'll go up into we'll select the image, we'll go into the image adjustments, and what we can do is not only play around with the hue and the saturation, so we can see what other colors look cool, but we can also change the exposure. So if we play around with this a little bit, I like the way that's looking. Very simple adjustments, very, very simple. And if we turn this up a little bit and then turn the offset down, maybe turn this down a little bit more, boom, and then maybe invert it. Who knows? Have fun with this process, because you can then create multiple pieces within the same collection that are very different from one another and all have a different energy to them. So I'm pretty happy with this one here, so we'll just export it. Exporting the image. Yeah, I'll turn up the quality just for the video. All right, and once we export that, we have our super trippy image here, which if we go to our wallpaper, we can test it out and see how it looks. Oh. Voila, so that's how you create a super trippy image in Blender super quickly. Guys, the results are endless here. You can really play around with things, and there's even more that you can do within Blender too, to really add some interesting results. So one of those things that you can do here, just as a little bonus, is like a Gabor texture in between the noise texture and the multiply. And then if you set this to 3D, boom, you have something completely different, right? And it's really just about playing around with the nodes and getting comfortable with the fact that you can add in nodes, try things, see if they work, and if they don't, remove them or add them back in. Really, the biggest thing here is just playing around with shading to find the perfect result, and you can really apply this to anything. It doesn't have to be a plane, it could be a cube, it could be a sphere, it could be anything you want. Any 3D object can then take this material shading, and you can create some really cool results. So I hope this video helped you guys understand my creative process for artwork. If you want to see some of my work, you can go over to my Unsplash. I'll put this link down in the description. I put all of my 8K renders on Unsplash, and I do a ton of trippy stuff on there, and all these are created within Blender. So you can go on there, find a new wallpaper, and you maybe even get some inspiration for your own projects. So if you like this video, drop a like, drop a subscribe. I apologize for the noise, a little bit noisier than I was hoping today, but it is my first Blender tutorial, so if you have any recommendations, I might have moved a little bit too quickly in some areas, but I hope that you were able to kind of slow things down and learn at your own pace. I don't think what we did today was too difficult. And I know that if I was just starting off in Blender, then I would be able to follow along, because the results are great, and I think that a lot of what we worked on was fairly simple. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you make. If you want to connect with me online anywhere and show me what you made, that'd be awesome too. All right, guys, have a good one.